another venue because I'd rather talk about Kimberly Clark right now. But I want to say thanks to Paul, thanks to Brand Innovators, thanks to our audience, and most of all, Brad, thank you for taking time out to speak.
Happy to be here.
I will get right into questions. And so it'll start with the personal and expand to the global, I think. But, the theme of this event is innovation. Obviously, the media world is aboil with change, and it already was pre-pandemic, but obviously since COVID, things have changed a lot. And so it is said that innovation is frequently a response to unforeseen challenges, and that's obviously what we've all gone through. So starting at the personal, how has it been for you? How has it been for your family? I know you're a dad.
Yeah.
I know you have kids in schools. I know a lot of your consumers do. So how has that gone for everybody?
Yeah, I guess first of all, fortunate to say that everybody in my family, including extended relatives, have stayed healthy and safe throughout. So that's the number one. Very grateful for that. But yeah, I mean, overall, it's been weird and stressful, like I'm sure it has been for everybody that's on the phone, right? It's unprecedented. It's weird to think that back in March, like, oh, this might be a month or two, and then it'll be back to normal, or a week or two, or whatever it was, and here we are a year and a half later, still working and living in different types of circumstances. But and in our house specifically, I'm pretty grateful. I think we've made the most out of it. Like you said, I've got two boys. They're teenagers. One will be off to college next year, so we've taken this as the silver lining out of it, which is an extended opportunity for us to spend more time with them, which we've been able to do in a variety of ways, just from them being home, me traveling less, and stuff like that. So, and they've continued to do, again, I give them a lot of credit. They've done amazingly well in school throughout all of it. They're back in the classroom now, which is good. So again, I think all things considered, I think we got through it or are getting through it pretty well.
Good. And you led with the most important. Everybody around you was safe.
Yeah.
So that is always great to hear. Talking a little bit about Kimberly, it's 150 years old.
Yeah.
It is a company that has a range of consumers from young to old. You are moving headquarters. That just came out. I saw another interview with the CMO who said she hasn't met her team yet.
That's I had breakfast with her a couple weeks ago, so
okay,
maybe
well,
it was
good.
an old video. We
always
made
good
it.
To meet the people we work with.
We saw each other
today.
face to face for the first time, which was great, and a few other team members too.
I went home on March 10th of 2020 with my laptop, expecting a one-day experiment, and I'm back in our new world headquarters for Discovery on 230 Park, completely different facility. But with the fact that you're a $20 billion a year company, 10 billion a year in the US in revenue or sales, 10 billion overseas, how have you kept your team together? How have you coped with this?
Yeah.
That is a big, far-flung business that you're part of. How has it worked?
It's been a variety. It's been a variety of things. I think in terms of keeping us together, we start with staying really human. I think we've actually done better with it than we would have thought. I think we've appreciated video technology and staying connected better than we thought. Which, and actually, kind of going back to your last point, like when I did meet, my boss in person for the first time, it wasn't weird. It was like, well, we've actually know each other pretty well. Like we've been talking and seeing each other, and we know each other's facial expressions and hand gestures and all those kinds of things, like before we've even met in person. So it felt really, really natural. So, we make a point of at the beginning of every call just to have some banter, some chit chat, tell stories, kind of know how we're, talk about how our things are going, so we kind of feel that sense of connection. And I think it's translated to our global teams as well. I mean, again, we always love to work with people face to face, and you can't beat a good whiteboarding session and sometimes the person to person interaction. But I think that we've done a good job of staying connected while also staying focused. I think that's a key part of it too. And the challenge in this, right, is that you can suffer from meeting overload, and the days can get kind of long. And I think we've done a good job of encouraging our people to hey, only go to the calls that are essential. There's plenty of them that are FYI. We're recording a lot of them now. If something comes up, we'll tell you afterwards, but take the time to keep working on projects, not just, get sort of, go with call overload. And that also just starts to really drain you mentally as well. So there's been a lot of emphasis at Kimberly Clark. And this is another one. I have to give a lot of credit to our company and the way that they've prioritized employee health, safety, well-being throughout the pandemic, as a whole. I mean, because it's not just, physical safety and staying distance, but, mental health and stress levels as well. And there's been a lot of proactive leadership from our, executive team, helping us sort of, set up these things like Focus
Right.
Fridays where we don't have meetings, and
Town
encouraging us to do these things.
halls.
Take your time off, go out and
Right.
get outside, break up your day. I mean, these are all
Right.
things that are messaged from the top of our organization. I think it helps us stay productive.
Have you returned to the office worldwide? I know for Discovery, we hear dispatches from around the world. Hong Kong's open, Hong Kong's closed,
Yeah.
et cetera. How has it gone for you guys?
It's similar. It's really similar, where there's, pockets that are open for a while, then maybe they close again and reopen again.
Right.
So depending on the market and country, it's been wildly different. And we sort of follow, local guidance and whatever is determined best to keep people safe. So, US, we've stayed home pretty much the entire time, whether it's Chicago, Atlanta, Dallas, or Neenah, where, our offices are currently.
Right.
There's not a definitive time to go back yet, but, our leaders will, follow guidance, and we'll get back when we can.
So speaking a little bit more about Kimberly, it is so interesting to hear you talk about the personal approach the company has taken. The products are very personal.
Yeah.
You have a variety of consumers. You have a variety of, like we do, iconic brands, everything from Kotex and Huggies at the younger end of the target to Poison Depends to Kleenex, et cetera. So who are your core consumers? How have you stayed in touch with them? I know that many people are still working off the Cottonelle that they bought a year ago, gradually and forever. But how has the pandemic really affected your consumer base? How have you reacted to it? How have you tried to
Sure.
stay the course, so to speak?
Yeah.
And you've
Yeah.
done it very successfully. You have an incredible stability in the company, the stock price. So
Yeah.
what has been the secret of innovating and yet staying consistently successful?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we're definitely proud of the way that things have gone, throughout the pandemic. Just kind of going back to your Cottonelle example, and all of our bath tissue brands, at the outset of the pandemic. I mean, that was crazy, right? I mean, when you say like, how did
Yes.
it impact the way that consumers considered your brands? Like, well, they were just grabbing anything that they could find and all of it, right? And we stayed very steady throughout that. Again, credit to our leadership for keeping our workers safe, keeping our plants and mills operational so that product could get back to the
Which
shelf
was
as
not
soon as
easy to
possible.
do, by the
It
way.
wasn't easy to do, and there's so many amazing stories about what happened here, all across the globe in terms of how people came together to keep working in a safe and good way. But yeah, I mean, look, Kimberly Clark products, kind of going to your point, there's a big breadth there, right? And the fact is that a quarter of the world's population uses a Kimberly Clark product every day. So yeah, all right, yeah, exactly right. Core consumer, that's pretty broad. So I think what
Right.
it's really about is, understanding, there's nuance to every single product that we have, and there's a lot to consider about what people are looking for from a, price, quality, standpoint. I think, brand purpose, brand meaning, all those things kind of tie into what, things that matter to our consumers and that we're trying to connect with on a regular basis. So, I guess, overall, our approach has been, we've had a strong strategy, I think a strong business strategy for the last number of years to elevate our core, and as well as be innovative and, and advance in emerging markets. And we've stuck with that. So even as there's been, disruption in the marketplace and disruption, to our business in certain areas, we've stayed steady, and that's served us well. Do we lose John? Oh, there's Paul.
I'm sorry about that. I don't know what happened.
Hey, no problem, Paul.
I was busy as you guys were talking, thinking about my own stash of Kimberly Clark products in the garage. And you're absolutely right that went through. That really had a moment. So
and we actually, we responded to that moment too. There was an effort that we did called Share the Care with Cottonelle,
yep.
where when in the weeks when it was happening, I mean, it was a very agile response where we had folks, we got messaging out that said, look, there's more coming to the shelves. If you've stocked up, like please share with someone who may need it, because more is going to be on like literally within days from now, and we got that out quickly, and that also served us pretty well.
Brad, talk about the arc of your messaging. What you said is really interesting, that when we went into this pandemic mode, brands didn't quite know what to respond. Do we go out with a moment of empathy? Do we go out with a moment of help? Do we continue our current strategy? Do we go dark? What has been the arc of, and I know there's so many brands, but I don't know if there are just some general themes, because you're one of those, you're a bellwether organization, and as your strategy goes, so do so many industries and organizations. So if there's some themes, I'd love to hear them.
Yeah, I don't think that there was, apart from Cottonelle and the example that I just gave, right? I mean, obviously when there were products that were just unavailable in stores, like tissue products that sold out, I mean, we pulled those down just because there wasn't supply and it didn't make sense. Everything else, I think we pretty much stayed the course, because they're goods that people need on a daily basis. And I think that there's been evolution of some of our messaging in terms of what we play up and emphasize, sort of based on consumer needs. I mean, I think we've emphasized brand purpose a little bit more. I think we've emphasized diversity, inclusivity a little bit more in our messages. Wellness of the planet, environmental responsibility has been played up a little bit more. Those are all things that I think were kind of we started like pre-pandemic, right? Those were trends that we were moving more into those directions. They were accelerated a little bit by the pandemic. So right now I'd say like overall it's messaging has largely returned to normal. We're continuing to invest at a healthy and normal rate. And we feel good about how we, kind of got through it. I mean, the only things that we really ever shut down it was only around supply issues. That's when we turned it off. So like, it doesn't make sense for us to be advertising if people can't buy it. But if it was available, whether it was in a bricks and mortar or online, we were out supporting it.
And from a work standpoint, was it a challenge to create work over the last year when your agencies were apart?
Hello.
Hey,
Thank you, Paul.
Hey, he's back.
Yeah,
Now we can get back to some more interesting Q&A.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
No, you did great, Paul. Listen, I'll just finish up on that question. I mean,
because I think it's an interesting one. People have been asking that question. They want to know.
We have been highly productive during this period. And again, I think it goes back to having a strong vision, a strong foundation, a strong strategy of like knowing where we're going and staying on top of that, staying organized, but giving people the freedom to kind of work within it. And that includes, our teams, our agency partners. So, we found some new ways of working that have been like highly effective. So we've been, for a 150-year-old company, to John's point, I think we've been very agile and adept in terms of how we've managed through this to stay productive. And I'm very encouraged about what we've been able to accomplish in the last 18 months. It's been way more than I would have thought.
Awesome. All right. I'll be back at the bottom of the hour. Back to you, John.
Thank you for the soft shoe.
Yeah.
For those of us going back to offices, this is what happens when you're in new facilities. So I'm glad I made it back. Sorry about that.
No problem, John.
So Brad, we were talking about consumers. We were talking about the impact of COVID and the conditions it's imposed. The media world was already in a state of rapid transition anyway. So the pandemic, of course, as they tend to do, threw all that into confusion, but accelerated a lot of it. So the big elements, there was a philosophy of how to deal with those pre-pandemic. Consumer usage has changed, of obviously streaming, et cetera. How do you think about all the big elements these days, whether it's TV, digital video, connected TV, social, search, et cetera? How do you pull all those together, and how do you work with your agency partners? You have some great agency partners as well. Shout out to them particularly, but how does it all come together for you as you confront this crazy environment?
Yeah, again, I think it goes back to discipline, but discipline that's also, knows how to be agile and adaptive as well, right? So I think when you've got a strong foundation and a good, process in place, or a framework, I guess I should say, to kind of to work from, it makes adapting to the changes a little bit easier because you've got kind of a good center that you're always based in. So at Kimberly Clark, we've been pretty, I think, sophisticated in the way that we've developed communication plans for a while. It's always rooted in, business opportunity and rich consumer insights and what they're looking for when. And then, if you kind of use that as your foundation, you start to think about, well, based on what we're trying to accomplish, like what are the moments when those consumers are receptive? What are the channels that I can use? What are the messages that they want to see, right? So you kind of get to that right blend of, right person, right message, right time. And we've got a lot of that, very well, architected out. It's kind of like within frameworks, but we also are, updating them and adjusting them constantly. And it's part of my team's role is like as new channels and where there's less learning and things are, more unknown, to sort of be that, sort of the group that helps our larger organization like understand, the opportunities and risks within those channels and how you can use them effectively and what best practices are and those kinds of things. So, again, I think that's kind of where we have the benefit of a center organization is that we got a lot of folks that are so focused on the day-to-day, business and communications, and our roles to be like, hey, here's kind of some other things that you got to be aware of that are going on and how you can kind of be prepared and adapt to those and support our agency partners, to your point, who are also working through those things. So that's what we use in terms of communication planning. And I'd say like one final build to that would be, we've also been, I think, as the pandemic has gone on and we've continued to evolve, we have gotten a lot more mindful about like truly holistic communications, like not just paid. I mean, paid is important and we put a lot of money into paid, but the power of earned, shared, and owned, and really unlocking that and planning that way has been something that we've done. And I think a good example of that was Huggies in the Super Bowl like this past year, right? I mean, we were the first time that we were ever in that. The Super Bowl was great, powerful environment to be in, but it's really about all the extra things that you do along with it to get the most mileage out of it. So that's just one example. We've done that like, a lot of times over in a lot of other markets around the world right now.
And so when you say a lot of other things for a big event plus a big sports event, what are those other things? So
Yeah.
obviously it's a big decision. It doesn't involve my company, so I'm safe to talk about it. But what are those other things? Is it retailer outreach? Is it the ability to
I mean, it's
take the message viral? What does it end up being?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, well, yeah, first of all, there's definitely leveraging, that type of investment and commitment and the newsworthiness that comes with it with our retail partners. That's like one aspect of it, right? So you've got to have brand and shopper teams like closely connected and brand and sales teams closely connected so that we can get the most out of it. But then, from a communication standpoint, no, it's a lot of, social and, own properties and pushing things out and, public relations and a lot of other things that we leverage to get a CRM communications, right? So
Right.
there was interactive elements that we did with it where I think, we had, people were able to, share pictures of babies that were born on the day of the Super Bowl. They were actually featured in the ad. So there was a lot of newsworthiness that came out of that activation as well.
Yeah, that's terrific.
So
So
that's kind of a neat trick.
I'm going to segue into a little bit of a flash round. I'm going to mention some elements that preoccupy many of us in terms of importance, in terms of conveying media messaging. How important are they to you guys? And the flash round is pricing, brand safety, audience engagement, and audience quality. And just quick reactions. I'll hit the first one, pricing. We just went through. Obviously, an upfront that was a little different than some of the past upfronts.
Yeah. Well, I mean, can I preface your flash round here with a point, which is that,
sure,
first of all, these are all important things, and we'll talk about each one of them individually. But at the end of the day, effectiveness is the most important metric, right? So it takes a combination of things to deliver effectiveness, and depending on what you're trying to accomplish, the way that you measure effectiveness is going to be different. So all of the things that you mentioned, I think, are contributing factors depending on what you're using to them. But like at the end of the day, like that's what our number one measure is. But yeah, I mean, but yeah, sure, pricing is important. But you've got to be smart about it. Cheap, if it doesn't work, is still a waste of money. It doesn't matter how cheap it is, and that applies to anything that you buy, whether
Right.
it's like personal or through media, right? So yeah, I mean, we love to pay a fair price for things, and but we'll pay more if we know that the value is there. It's all about the price value equation for us.
Right.
Brand safety, is that the next one you
Yes,
said?
brand safety is the next one.
Brand safety, yeah, brand safety. That's a non-starter for us. We have been, I'm proud to say that I think we are one of the earlier brands. This goes back at least 6 or 7 years at this point, who really put an emphasis on brand safety. It's evolved over time, right? I mean, I think at first it was kind of like it was really about fraud prevention and detection.
Right.
Then it became more about making sure that your brand was like in safe environments, and then it's kind of even more like not just safe environments but responsible environments. Are we not going into places that are bad for people in general, not just bad for our brand, but where
Right.
hate speech and other things are prevalent. We want no part of that. So we invest a lot in not only the technology to safeguard against those things, but also the team and our agency partners that we have helping to actively manage it, for us on an ongoing basis. And I know that there have been reports from A&A and other folks, and I know that our performance in that area is among the best in the industry, and we're pretty proud of that.
Congratulations. Tough
Yeah,
to do too, as messaging proliferates, as platforms get inflamed, and you guys walk a delicate line. They're very personal products that
yeah.
can be consumed by anybody. So that has to be, I would imagine, an everyday task to.
It is, yeah, it is. I mean,
rely
and
on.
we've really worked to expand it too. I mean, we actually published, last year, brand responsibility guidelines, and so it's pretty holistic in its approach in terms of how we think about this. So it's not just brand safety, but it's data privacy. It's representation. It's a lot of things. So brand safety, fraud detection, transparency, privacy, all those things are kind of tied into our brand responsibility guidelines that we activate and we talk about globally.
So the flash round was going to have audience engagement, but I have to presume that's important. And quality audience, I have to presume, is important.
It is, and I think that they're to me, those are like really exciting areas, right? Because I mean, what does audience quality mean to me? I mean, audience quality means that we're not wasting. It's not being wasteful. The audience quality is like, are these your prime prospects, and do you know like where they're at in the journey so that you can target them with the right message in the right way, right? So, getting better and better at that is definitely a priority. And engagement, I think engagement is evolving a little bit. It's not just clicks and downloads and those types of things anymore. I mean, which is obviously important because like a lot of companies, right, we're trying to build up a first party database too and add value on digital platforms and a lot of other things, through registrations, and give consumers value that way through our own like other digital products. But engagement from an advertising standpoint now, I mean, we're really learning that through in terms of like early indicators of strong ROI performance, how much dwell time and hover rate and viewability and these things actually matter. So engagement doesn't just have to be like a physical action to us. I think it can just be making sure that like, are you getting the engagement in terms of like the quality of exposure that you're getting of your message, and our consumers able to get the key takeaway that you wanted to deliver. And I think that's one that we're only going to continue to get better at over time. There's a lot of partners in this space that are kind of learning how to develop sort of like engagement or quality of impression type metrics, so that you're not just being cost based, but you're actually kind of bringing in the quality element to that as part of how you're evaluating performance.
Have you been surprised by the vitality of any of those elements over the last 18 months? Has social leaped out at you, or has everything?
Yeah, I think I think it's no, I think that they're all. I think all of it's pretty vital. I mean, I'm very excited about I think where connected TV and that's going. I think that to me that's where there's a lot of more like exciting opportunity, and kind of, it still feels like it's a little bit on the pioneer phase in terms of how we all get like really good at doing that, in terms of, giving consumers value, being smart about how we spend, working with our partners in that space, and partners like you and Discovery, we kind of like talked to, have been like, you guys are discovering it too. And so it's like, how do we work on that together,
yes.
right? So to
Every
me,
day, same
yeah.
as you're describing.
And the metrics that we just talked about, I think, are all things that kind of that can tie into that, right? And to me, those are like, that's an exciting conversation to be having with you.
Yeah, in the old world, you just look for big signs. Now you have to sift and look at all the little signs.
Yeah.
That being said, a couple of questions that matter to Discovery. Does linear TV, it's still working for you? Is it working as well? What are your thoughts these days?
Yeah. Yes. I mean, let's, I was going to try to do like a corny dramatic pause, but I can't do it.
Thank you.
So yeah, no, it does. Listen, linear television still does work. I don't think it works, but I think it's it works and type of a situation. You've got to be, smarter about how you do it. And there's no doubt about that. We've seen, if you have to know exactly the right amount to spend, and how to do it, and how to balance your channels mix. Flexibility is a huge asset right now in terms of being able to really kind of sculpt and tailor make your buys, like just kind of buying in bulk. And especially for us, I mean, maybe if you're, a huge company that's got, $1 billion to spend, and more than half of that in television, it's like, okay, you don't really care about. But for us, like, every dollar is pretty precious. We're going up against some pretty giant competition that tends to have more money than us, so spending smarter really matters. And seeing things like over frequencying against like a really small segment of the audience, like, hurts. Like, and so there's a danger, I think, in linear TV that used to not be there as much. So it's about how you bring in all the other elements of a holistic video strategy to really spend smart. But yeah, does linear TV work? Absolutely. I mean, we've got MMMs that show that it delivers positive ROIs. It's a volume contributor. It's an important part of the mix. But it's, again, I'd say if it was, if the consumer is the center, and the planets are our channels that kind of revolve around them, it's like, TV is getting to be about as big of a planet as a lot of other ones. So where it used to be like Jupiter,
Yeah, exactly.
Now not quite so much.
But still a planet. So
absolutely, still a viable planet.
Still orbiting.
It's got some moons even. It's all good.
Are there things you think big TV could be doing better, or big media could be doing better toward your goal of personal relationships with consumers, towards your desire to target messaging efficiently? Is there something?
Yeah, I think it's, I think it's on all of us. It's not just, it's not just about what the media companies need to do differently. It's like, the world has changed, and we have to change with it. And I think a big part of it is thinking about, like, how do we partner? I think that there's been with the big partners, at least I'm talking mainly from a video standpoint, right? I feel like some of the digital ones have been a little bit more organic in terms of like how they've built client relationships kind of from the start. I think with a lot of broadcast, traditional broadcast partners, it's been more like the agency kind of owns that relationship. I think to a stronger degree, because that's where the deals go down and all that type of stuff, and kind of bundling things up. But as the world has changed, I think that there's a lot of opportunity for advertisers and the media companies to work closer together on a whole variety of topics, because like the agencies can't do it all for us. I mean, as good as they are, like when you're talking about finite audience definition and measurement and content capabilities and all these things, like we need to be coming together on that as clients partner with the agencies and support. So I think that's something that we can all do better.
Boy, agreed. One quick question. We're running towards getting Paul back, but branded content, another key topic, but it has had its ups and downs over the last couple of years. Is it still a great way? You're trying to build personal relationships. Do you still look at that as a tool in an arrow in the quiver? And
I do, yeah. I mean, I'll be honest, that's one I wish that we did more of. It's one that I'd like to kind of push on with our teams a little bit more. But I think it's also important to kind of recognize that branded content is a pretty wide spectrum right now too, right? Kind of going back to my earlier point around paid, owned, and shared. And it's like, influencers can be branded content. You can work with big companies like you.
Yes.
So there's like literally like a million different ways that you can do it. But, as a as a as a practice, I love it because I mean it's really about sort of breaking through the fourth wall, right? Which is look, there's someone is passionate about something, they're a fan of something. You're trying to find a way, like as a brand, to like organically like integrate within it and kind of like support that fandom in a way and give
Yes.
the consumer something of value and of interest to them, and so that you kind of get this like this win-win-win between consumer, brand, and the publisher that's helping to kind of pull it all together for you. So
Right.
I love it as a tactic, and I'd love to see us do more of it.
Overall, are you excited about the current media landscape? Is it a battle every day? And what have you done that you are especially, I mean, obviously the pride is coming out in everything you're talking about, and your response has been so measured and well executed, but
Yeah.
how, is
Yeah.
every day a new possibility? Is,
Yeah, 100% every day is a new possibility. I think that's the best part of the field that we work in. I think
agreed.
if you don't feel that every day is a possibility, then you're in the wrong area. And it's like, yes, it can be daunting. Yes, it's challenging. Yes, things are changing, but to me, like that's the fun of it. If it was the same every day, that would be a grind. So listen, we're all about trying to keep pushing, innovating, working in different ways, and enjoying the ride of this opportunity that we have. Because the truth is, like, with the technology and capabilities that exist, it's never been a better time for a marketer. It's hard to do, but it's like if you don't have fun, like trying to get like more precise, more personalized, and make better connections with people with all that we have available to us, you're in the wrong business. So yeah, all about possibilities.
I agree. The blend of art and science has always been the biggest appeal for me personally, and I think now is the greatest time ever to combine the two sides of the brain, so to speak.
Thank you. Yeah, I guess in conclusion, I mean, you asked what are we most, proud of? I mean, there's a lot of things, and I think I kind of alluded to this, a little bit earlier, but just the progress that we've made in a really tough time, and the way that we've evolved our capabilities, like holistically from a marketing and media standpoint, digitally. I mean, I think we used to be the kind of company that would, like love to look outside for case studies and what's good and what's out there and kind of asking questions, right? And now I feel like we've actually gotten to a point where we've got so many on the inside that we can share.
Wow.
Like we've done a
Yeah.
lot of best in class things, and that I'm really proud of. And that goes, really the credit goes to all the folks on the ground and on the brand teams and all the markets, like making those types of decisions. I love to take, a little bit of credit along with all my team for helping to kind of inspire some of that thinking, but it really doesn't get done unless they do it. And they're doing it. And I'm really proud of that.
Congratulations. So terrific. Final quick question. You are in a fantasy football league with a colleague of mine. I don't know if you're leading the league, but are you ahead of him?
I think it's a given. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's a given.
Thank you.
I'll double check. I haven't looked this morning. I had a rough week this past week, but yeah, I know who you're talking about. And
yeah. All right.
he's usually towards the bottom, but I am too. So, I mean, I got to be honest about that as well. I haven't won the league in a while.